It was just a minor parking mistake. An awkward attempt to squeeze into a tight spot on a crowded downtown street. Nothing serious, nothing dangerous. Just an everyday inconvenience. But that small imperfection would spark an avalanche. All because one patrol officer let his arrogance and prejudice decide how the rest of the day would unfold. Janelle Carter, a composed and sharply dressed black woman in her early 40s, had just left the county courthouse after a long, contentious hearing. She was an assistant district attorney with a reputation for being precise, poised, and unshakably fair. She wore a charcoal gray blazer over a crisp white blouse, her heels clicking on the concrete as she made her way to her car, a silver sedan she'd parallel parked a few blocks away. She wasn't planning to stay long, just needed to swing by her colleague's office to pick up a folder of exhibits and head home. Dinner was waiting. So was her daughter, and the last thing she needed was more conflict. The sedan was parked slightly askew, its rear end jutting out a foot more than she'd intended. Still, she wasn't blocking any driveways or creating a traffic hazard. She glanced back, figured she'd fix it before leaving again in 5 minutes, and locked the door. That's when a patrol car slid in behind her with an exaggerated swerve. Officer Brett Malone stepped out like he was storming a crime scene. Late 30s, pale, stocky, face frozen in a perpetual sneer. His patrol lights flashed even though there was no emergency. Just a car parked a little crooked and a black woman who, to his mind, didn't look quite like she belonged. "You call that parking?" Malone barked, loud and accusatory. Janelle turned, startled. "Excuse me. You're blocking the road," he snapped, already standing too close. She looked at her car and saw that yes, the angle wasn't perfect, but it was hardly obstruction. Still, not wanting trouble, she nodded politely. "I can move it back a bit. Wasn't planning to stay long." He scoffed. "Oh, so now you're going to fix it after parking like that?" Janelle blinked, her patience tested. "Again, I'll correct it." But Malone wasn't listening. He was scanning her up and down, eyes narrowing as he took in her suit, her car, the calm in her voice. It rubbed him wrong, someone like her, speaking with confidence, dressed like a professional. License and registration. Now. She inhaled through her nose, willed herself to stay cool. No point escalating things. She retrieved her ID and paperwork, handed them over without a word. Malone snatched them from her hand, glanced at her name, Janelle Carter, and muttered it like it tasted bad. Then he chuckled under his breath. "What, are you some kind of lawyer? Government worker?" he asked, tone laced with mockery. She didn't answer. He smirked. "Figures. You people think a fancy suit and shiny car means you're above the law." Janelle's jaw tightened. "You know how to drive, or did you buy your license?" The words dripped with venom. Thinly veiled racism, fully displayed contempt. "I don't appreciate your tone, officer," she said, voice clipped but still calm. "If you believe I've committed a parking violation, please write the citation and I'll take care of it. But the language you're using is unprofessional, inappropriate, and exceeds your authority." He stared at her like she'd slapped him. His face flushed red, not with embarrassment, but anger. "You don't get to lecture me, lady," he snarled, stepping closer. "You don't get to tell me how to do my job." "I'm reminding you of the law," she replied firmly. "If I'm receiving a ticket, fine. But what you're doing now is harassment." Malone's breath hissed through his teeth. "You think you're smart, huh?" he growled. "You think you can talk down to me because you've got a suit and a mouth?" He pointed a finger inches from her face. "I'm warning you, shut your mouth or I'll arrest you for resisting." "For asking you to behave lawfully?" she asked. That did it. Malone's ego couldn't handle a woman, especially a black woman, defying him with knowledge and composure. Rage eclipsed whatever judgment he had left. He grabbed her wrist. "Don't touch me," she said, stepping back. Malone grinned. There it is. Resisting. Before she could react, he spun her around and shoved her arms behind her back. The metal of the handcuffs bit into her skin. She tried to stay balanced, not wanting to fall onto the sidewalk in front of the gathering crowd. "You want to play tough?" Malone spat. "Now you'll see what happens." Janelle gritted her teeth, refusing to give him the satisfaction of fear. Still, the sting of humiliation was sharp. Bystanders were watching, murmuring. Some pulled out their phones. A woman in a suit, being cuffed on the sidewalk for parking. He shoved her into the back of the patrol car without care, slammed the door, and turned to gloat or radio in the resisting subject. He had no idea what he'd just done. As he returned to the driver's side, another patrol car pulled up. A marked cruiser, quiet, efficient. The driver's door opened and out stepped Sergeant Dana Rote, blonde bun, calm eyes, and a no-nonsense demeanor. From the passenger side came Lieutenant Malcolm Price, tall, lean, and widely respected in the department. Rowe's brow furrowed. "Malone, what's going on?" "Got myself a hostile subject. Obstructing traffic. Resisting. Had to cuff her," Malone said, nodding toward the back of the car. Price glanced into the window. His eyes widened. "Jesus Christ," he muttered. "That's Carter." Rowe stepped closer. "Assistant District Attorney Janelle Carter?" Malone blinked. "Wait, what?" Rowe rounded the car. "ADA Carter, are you all right?" Janelle nodded stiffly. "Yes." "Aside from the unlawful arrest." Price turned to Malone. "You cuffed an ADA over a parking spot?" "She resisted," Malone said, his voice shrill now. "She asked you to behave lawfully," Janelle said through the open window, her tone like steel. Rowe glared at Malone. "Uncuff her. Right now." Hands shaking, Malone fumbled with the key. Once free, Janelle stepped out, adjusted her blazer, and stood tall. "I expect this to be addressed," she said evenly, directing her gaze at the lieutenant. "It will be," Price said firmly. "And you have my apology." "I'll be submitting a formal complaint," Janelle replied, along with a request for an internal investigation into misconduct, racial discrimination, and unlawful detainment. Malone's face turned ashen. Price turned to him. "Badge. Gun. Radio. You're suspended pending review." Malone stammered. "But sir." Now, by the end of the day, Internal Affairs was fully involved. Witness statements confirmed Malone's aggression and verbal abuse. His body cam captured everything. The insults, the threats, the slurs, clear and undeniable. The footage didn't just confirm misconduct. It exposed a man who had no business wearing a badge. Within 2 weeks, Officer Brett Malone was fired. No pension. No shield. Gone. The story spread fast, both within the department and throughout the legal community. Janelle didn't want fame, didn't want headlines. But her courage to stand firm and pursue justice had ripples. For every person too scared to speak out, she had become a quiet beacon. Her colleagues rallied around her, not out of pity but respect. As for Malone, he disappeared from the city's radar. No charges were filed, but the termination was final. His record would follow him. Janelle returned to work with a deeper sense of resolve. She had always believed in the law's power to protect. But now she understood how fragile that protection could be, especially when those in power misuse it. What happened on that sidewalk wasn't just about one angry officer. It was about a system that allowed him to exist unchallenged until the day he chose the wrong woman to target. And that woman made sure he'd never do it again.